Hello, Brother Sen. Hello, everyone, and hello to all the audience members. Today, since Brother Sen has to go out for business meetings, I am asking him right now if he has noticed or paid attention to any important events happening today. Is there enough time to view?
You need to observe it for yourself. Because I have enough time to look at it, but there are not enough transactions in this market, boss.
Certainly. Here's the expanded version of your text. Yes, today's market turnover reached a total of 250.2 billion, and it ultimately closed at 23,206 points. In fact, it was approximately 300 billion in the early trading stage. However, due to the negative news surrounding Xiaomi, it significantly dragged down the overall market performance. At the conclusion of the trading day, the index experienced a slight increase, rising by 87 points. However, concerning the overall market performance, it is difficult to draw any conclusions as it has not yet reached the crucial threshold of 23,000. Is the level of 23,000 now becoming a more significant support level?
Well, considering two factors, this is the past, which represents the previous bottom position. The level of 23,000 will naturally evolve into a crucial support level for traders. Well, but if you really want to count the positions, I would look at the 50-day line. The position would be better, which is 20,500. It should be around 20,500. It was also the low position in early March. It directly became the low position in March. Before you changed your view, I would look at this position. The statement also implies that the present market has a potential opportunity to drop to this specific level, thereby establishing some initial support. My primary concern, however, is that today I will solely focus on discussing my technology, which pertains to analyzing the trend, and afterward I will share insights regarding various moving average techniques. Well, if you discuss the specific shape, I am more concerned that there will be a sharply pointed top in the overall behavior. Hey, what is that peculiar pointed head over there?
Do you remember?
Oh, the sharply pointed head is indeed a reincarnation. Yes, reincarnation means that if you were originally rising, the channel will turn around. If you reverse, your top is called a pointed bottom. Pointed bottoms are also reincarnation forms, but if it really looks like a pointed top now, I would be more worried. The high position in March is a top, and the second high position in March is it's the left. It's the position at the beginning of March, the position on March 7, position 24669, the left shoulder. Regarding the right shoulder, it measured 23865 on March 27th. A change occurred with the right shoulder. Additionally, the top of your head measured 24874 on March 19th. The current situation here is at its peak. Everyone should keep in mind that there exists a significant neckline. This neckline is likely positioned around 23,206, which closely aligns with today's closing position. The sharpness is that you have to defend these positions like 232, and the left wing level has to be defended. I have become a form. You have to look at everything. These positions cannot be defended. In fact, if you want to go down, it is really exciting. Because I think it's roughly 23,000, and above 248, it's going to drop by 1,000. It's going to drop by 1,800 points. That's it. If the index falls by 1,800 points from 23,000, it will be about 22,000. 22,000 points happens to be our position, which is the lower axis of this rising channel. It has become somewhat similar to experiencing a persistent headache. The external situation can either halt the decline or indicate an improvement. A significant drop in the US stock market will likely impact the Hong Kong stock market. It's unwise to cling to your money, as a US downturn could lead to a later shift of investments into the Hong Kong market. In fact, this current situation is somewhat of a luxury for investors. We genuinely hope that the US stock market is performing well, as this could help ensure that the decline of the Hong Kong stock market is not too severe. Secondly, what you actually hope is that the economy of mainland China will not scare the market. I don't expect it to be very good, nor do I expect it to grow very much, but at least there won't be anything that would scare the market, which is good news for the industry.
Yes, but that's because I don't know if the market is in a wait-and-see mood. Trump actually said it was early in the morning on Thursday, which is 3 a.m. Hong Kong time. This means that they will be announcing some important details regarding tariffs, which could lead to market funds having to remain stagnant for the time being. As you just mentioned, we need to carefully observe how the external economic situation unfolds. In fact, due to the ongoing tariff discussions, it is clear to everyone that the US stock market is experiencing an upward trend today, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average also showing an increase in value. This indicates a reaction to the anticipated announcements and their potential impact on the economy. The US stock market, including the S&P and S&P 500 index, is currently experiencing a decline, but signs indicate they are rebounding. So do you happen to have any specific opinions or thoughts? As for Trump now, When he announces any new tariff measures, perhaps everyone should pay close attention to the fluctuations in the Hong Kong stock market. Haha.
Well, if you assert that Trump's tariff measures can indeed be interpreted as either good news or bad news, the peculiar aspect is that the positive news is the fact that the uncertainty which everyone has been anxiously anticipating and speculating about has now been effectively eliminated, providing a clearer landscape for businesses and economic planning. The US stock market has removed an obstacle allowing for potential upward movement. Currently, it is in a phase of adjustment and consolidation. However, from a medium-term perspective, it is expected to be weak in the short term. As for the bad news, let's analyze it in the same way as usual. The geopolitical situation is tense, and some countries are forcing countries to establish a trade war. But the United States is just grabbing some bad news or something called protectionism, etc. This trend has actually been accelerating all the way. I think the market will not be too surprised. What the investment market is most worried about are some unexpected situations, right? Not some fundamental and absolute bad news. Is that true? If you look for uncertain factors, in fact, even if there is some bad news, they will treat it as good news. It depends on how long the adjustment of Arjinsuan will take.
We just talked about some aspects of the US stock market and we will come back to it later. However, let's discuss China first, as the country has introduced an innovative new financial index that could impact global markets. The Caixin China PMI for the month of March rose to 51.2, which is an increase of 0.4 percentage points from the previous month's figure. In fact, this marks a new high that has not been seen since December of the previous year. The market analysts are anticipating a PMI index reading of around 50.6, give or take a slight margin. If this expectation holds true, how do you perceive the implications for the current economic recovery? Has this situation been further confirmed as the Chinese side has stated?
At best, you are just saying that the economy has hit bottom, that the economic recession has hit bottom. That is at best, and I think this is a reasonable inference because if you look at Caixin, the Chinese PMI, there are generally two PMIs from Caixin. One is the official PMI and the other is Caixin's PMI. The Caixin one is more biased towards small and medium-sized enterprises. Well, usually the PMI has the 50 dividing line. If it is above 50, it is an expectation of expansion. And if it is below 50, it is an expectation of contraction. The PMI itself is a leading indicator, which means it is not some past data. And this is the detailed data of the outlook. Well, if you mention that Caixin's PMI is above the crucial threshold of 50, that's certainly a positive indicator, as it signifies that the economy is in an expansionary phase. However, the concern is that the figure is not particularly high. While it is better than anticipated, it still hasn't reached the more robust levels in the late 50s or 60s, which would indicate stronger growth. So that's the key point. To reflect the confidence of the market is to maintain a stable situation. Now we are all saying that the economy has bottomed out and is recovering, but I think it is a little too early to say that. At this moment, I will wait for another 2 or 3 months. But of course, the numbers themselves are good and the employment data has also improved. As you can see, due to the recent PMI data, several detailed employment statistics have shown improvement, indicating that the current job reduction situation is likely to be alleviated significantly. This development is a positive aspect for various other economic sectors. However, when you observe the market's reaction closely, do you genuinely believe it is truly aggressive in nature? Do you think it is actually encouraging in any way? On the contrary, everyone is still watching it more cautiously. In fact, whether the economy is on the path to recovery is not the most crucial aspect. For us as retail investors, the most significant factor to consider is how the market evaluates and interprets the broader economic outlook moving forward.
Expanding on China's current economic prospects, based on the data I have reviewed, the performance of new orders for consumer goods appears to be relatively robust and encouraging following the release of this recent PMI index, particularly concerning classified products within the market. Furthermore, when considering the category of intermediate products alongside investment products, the observed growth rate is in fact notably more moderate than initially anticipated. If you put it this way, actually some of the funds in the market will not talk. That is, they are actually flowing in, as we have mentioned before, because we have actually seen before that it seems that the recent trend of Hong Kong stocks is that more northbound funds are flowing in, and then the investment products through these channels are not really growing very sharply.
This is what we say all the time. Why do we say that technical analysis is useful? Because when you look at the chart, you can actually see what the market is doing. What you are currently observing regarding the Hong Kong stock market is that the overall sentiment is not particularly optimistic or aggressive. If you claim that you feel encouraged by the unexpectedly positive figures, then it is essential that the index reflects this with a sustained performance, specifically maintaining at least a 10-day moving average to support that outlook. 236740 such a position. However, it appears that the situation remains unchanged even today. In other words, it is still mamas, and the number of transactions has not seen a significant increase. If you believe that this is indeed the current situation, it indicates that market confidence is extremely fragile, which is certainly not a positive or encouraging development for investors and the economy as a whole. Well, in addition to what I've mentioned, if you closely examine the line here, you can clearly see some significant moving averages. The 10-day moving average stands at 236, while the 20-day moving average is slightly higher at 238. If the 10-day moving average crosses above or below the 20-day moving average, it's a signal that you should definitely pay close attention to. Well, that's all for now. The same trend that you're observing is referred to as a reversal, and a relatively clear instance of this phenomenon is termed a death cross. Naturally, this specific example is considered a small death cross. But the problem is that this is not a good thing at all. And I have mentioned it before. I think I mentioned it last week. What does it mean if the 20-day moving average is lost? This means that this period of upward trend is temporarily coming to an end. That is why we have been talking about the stock market. The reason is that this reflects how investors in the stock market view the current economy. The economic data we see don't seem to be as bad as we imagined, and if it's not, it's hell. But the investment world is another matter. As investors, I believe we should exercise greater caution and be more mindful in our decisions moving forward.
Well, for instance, regarding our Hong Kong stocks, several technology stocks such as Alibaba, which is listed at 700, exhibited a rebound today. However, let's consider it from another perspective, as automotive stocks are expected to release various delivery data one after another in the coming days. Certainly, here's an expanded version of your original text. Well, today we might as well start our discussion by focusing on Xiaomi first, because this innovative company actually has two significant topics to share with you today. Xiaomi recently released its impressive car purchase data, which is dated for April 2024, showcasing their latest developments in the automotive sector. We have just started delivering the Xiaomi SU7. In fact, as mentioned before, by mid-March this year, we had already delivered 200,000 units, or the 200,000th car. However, today, I informed Brother Shen right from the start that the market had actually increased by more than 300 points earlier in the day. But after I returned from lunch in the afternoon, Xiaomi's stock price unexpectedly plummeted significantly. Hey, I noticed that today's bill has surprisingly reached a total of 46.5. Could you please explain the reason behind this increase? Today I'm going to discuss his SU7, which took place in March, specifically around the 20th of that month. Actually, there was a piece of news. To be more specific, it was about a car accident. That is, after he had the car accident, I don't know if the term in Hong Kong is called explosion, but anyway, it exploded.
What happens after eating it? Does it explode and burn? What do explosion and burning signify? Yes. Oh, where are you?
Well, concerning China, yes, indeed, China is a significant topic.
Follow me, you should all know it. China has the most Xiaomi for now, right? Yes, because it seems that he has not been accepted by China. He has not been sold, right? I doubt it's possible, so I assume payment isn't feasible. Please go ahead. I'll read the news first, it's fine.
It doesn't matter, yes. Hey, let me share something interesting with you. During the time you were watching, his standard version of the SU7 aircraft unfortunately encountered a serious traffic accident on the busy highway. What exactly is the cause of the unfortunate accident? It turns out that prior to the incident occurring, the car was in the NOA state, which stands for Navigate on Autopilot, indicating that it was engaged in an intelligent and fully automatic driving mode at that time.
After that, it's about intelligent assisted driving. He said yes. The news I watched discussed intelligent assisted driving, highlighting its unique features.
Yes, please continue at this pace. Currently, we are driving at a speed of approximately 116 kilometers per hour. However, due to the time constraints we are facing and the fact that the road is undergoing maintenance, we will proceed to test the car until we come across some obstacles or challenges that we need to navigate around. As the alarm sounds, it alerts the driver that they need to start slowing down the vehicle. At this point, the driver must take control of the car by switching to single driver mode, allowing them to continue the deceleration process safely and effectively. However, at the back of the vehicle, I'm not entirely sure if it was due to my inability to slow down or something else, but I struck a concrete pile, which then led to a significant collision occurring. Before the collision, his speed was about 9,170 miles per hour. After some time, I came to understand that the reason this incident occurred was likely because he had struck a concrete pile. Then, I don't know if the door was open so that they couldn't open it and leave. I don't know if it is true now. But the market is saying that Xiaomi's stock price has, of course, reflected this because it has fallen sharply and everyone is buying these stocks and leaving Well, there is another perspective suggesting that Xiaomi's approach to handling situations is characterized by their tendency to announce new developments promptly. Conversely, there are also voices indicating that they dedicated an entire day to addressing issues, specifically in response to this unexpected incident, and they took action to provide the necessary support to affected individuals or customers. Some individuals expressed that they felt the awareness surrounding the crisis was managed fairly well, suggesting that it appeared other car manufacturers lacked similarly effective public relations personnel and methods to address such situations effectively. In other words, you might believe that this incident will significantly influence Xiaomi's stock price and its distribution strategy, but in reality, it is somewhat disappointing and discouraging.
I'm not entirely sure how the mainland, specifically mainland China, evaluates or oversees this kind of advanced technology, particularly in relation to autonomous driving or related innovations. I simply want to see Noah's response to the situation. If it involves Tesla, it might utilize its autopilot feature. The first thing about autopilot is that it knows how to drive by itself. But if you ask it to enter two destinations for you and then you go to sleep, it will be more difficult for it to go to one destination by itself. This is not the key point of developing assisted driving technology. Okay, the second thing is, did the driver take over the car? If I'm not mistaken, I just watched a few news reports and they all said that, well, then there was a collision. In fact, some of the responsibility falls on the driver. But the key point is Xiaomi, in fact, after the collision, can you drive away? Whether you can drive away is actually a hidden danger of electric vehicles. Well, Tesla has always included physical components in their vehicles. For example, if the car is involved in a crash or has lost power, the door can still be opened using a combination lock installed for emergencies. However, just a few years ago with the previous generation models, specifically the Model 3 and Model Y, the locking mechanisms were not designed to be very obvious or easily noticeable to the average user, which may have caused some confusion among owners. So some people, if you don't read the owner's manual, I probably won't read it. Have you ever observed the handbrake? I guess you don't. No, that's a bit too bold, haha. Most people typically skip reading the owner's manual because they believe they already know how to drive a car, thinking it's unnecessary. Tesla understands this common behavior, which is why its latest generation of vehicles is designed to be easy to purchase, and the user interface is very straightforward and clear for all consumers. It's very easy for you to see that it's an emergency switch so that you can open the door if you don't have electricity. Well, it's essentially the same for electric cars. Regardless of whether you are a BYD or a Xiaomi, it is crucial to possess a strong safety awareness, which means incorporating safety considerations into the design process. This aspect is vital for consumer trust and overall reliability. Additionally, this is something that the market must rigorously evaluate. Otherwise, no matter how outstanding your public relations are in the future, it will be meaningless because you will have lost your life. Electric vehicles operate under similar principles. They require high capacity, high voltage power lines, much like the ones used for high voltage telecommunication systems, to effectively travel on urban streets. Consequently, there are several safety concerns that must be addressed and resolved to ensure public safety. Yeah, but of course, most car manufacturers have overcome this problem now.
So accidental anyone won?
Is it because it was made by Xiaomi so it exploded and killed people? I also feel that if it is still like this, there will be some bad influence. But your image is not so good after all. How are you and the channels going to remedy it later? Well, the remedy is not just to compensate the family members or do some public relations to remedy it, and how they might make their physical characters more conspicuous, etc. In fact, I think these measures will affect the market's impression of them, which is the most important thing. But secondly, I think the most important thing is that Xiaomi's stock price has fallen a lot from its high level. The asset has seen a significant decline, dropping 30% from the $60 mark and plummeting by 4,650% today. It previously crossed the 50-day moving average near $60, but now it has again crossed this average, indicating a distinct trend of weakening. Watch for a few days, watch this week, watch, there are still 2 trading days left. Watch for 2 trading days and see if the stock price can go back to the 50-day line. If not, don't fantasize. You really have to leave because this is really a warning sign. Xiaomi was a strong stock before and strong stocks can fall. In other words, the overall market is taking a turn for the worse. When we talk about stock prices and technicals, we are actually just looking at the chart to find out what the market is doing. Now, the market seems to be holding on to money. I'm afraid Xiaomi is one of the stocks that is holding on to money particularly quickly. The reason is self-evident. We have always said that Xiaomi's valuation is more expensive. As an automobile stock and a mobile phone stock, your valuation is not too justified unless you really reach a certain level and have some inventions. Xiaomi lacks certain innovative technologies, indicating that while it possesses some, it does not have all the advancements available under current circumstances. This also contributes to making its decline more rapid and noticeable.
Well, I just read this article in China News Weekly and it mentioned this. It turns out that Xiaomi also has the same idea as you. Tesla actually has a switch that can be used to manually restart the car if the car breaks down. It turns out that Xiaomi also has this system. He mentioned that there is a convenient storage compartment located beneath the interior panel of each of the 4 doors. There is a sturdy handle, so you can easily use the handle to open the door and access the compartment. However, if this event hadn't occurred, no one would truly know what might have transpired instead. Xiaomi's stock price has notably shifted from being a robust performer to a situation where many investors are opting to cash out their shares. Besides, Xiaomi actually has an order, and I would like to ask Brother Asian, do you think it should be taken into consideration? That is, should the rights issue be arranged in the early channel? In fact, they could have issued rights at a high level of 53.25 cents, which was a discount of 6.6% at the time, and raised 42.5 billion through rights issuance. Actually, the current distance between the two values is now 53.25 cents and 46.65 cents. I recommend not considering it too seriously at this moment. It seems that the news has settled down significantly after those recent developments. Consequently, Xiaomi's stock price might be on a path toward regaining stability. In your opinion, do you think this news regarding the rights issue should be factored into our considerations moving forward? Stock?
When thoroughly examining this particular stock, it is crucial to consider not only Xiaomi's performance, but also several other automobile stocks that have experienced significant allotment. This situation indicates that the market, or perhaps the management team, believes that their current prices largely reflect a degree of market optimism, which we can typically interpret as a positive sentiment regarding future growth and potential profitability. When a company repurchases its shares, it can have significant implications for the market. It means that the management believes that the market underestimates its stocks. The bonus issue indicates market optimism rather than overvaluation. So do it. The idea that extremes can lead to opposites raises questions about the current state of the automobile market. Is it truly optimistic, and have any fundamental changes occurred? Now it is obviously not, so this means that they will issue bonus shares now. In fact, there are some companies in the market that are over speculated, so the company will definitely issue bonus shares and will not be polite to you. So what you see must be a high level issuance. You don't need to match high or low amounts. Collecting more is beneficial, even if it's just $20. Yes, you can certainly use it as a useful reference point, but I believe it raises the question of whether the rebound can realistically reach this position.
Well, if you suggest that today's market rebound raises some questions, it's worth noting that alongside BYD and Xiaomi, there is yet another prominent auto stock to consider. Specifically, the company that announced on March 27th its intention to issue new rights shares is NIO, which is commonly referred to as one of the 3 idiots in the industry. NIO indeed plays a crucial role in this narrative. Yeah, so he 866. Yes, according to his detailed rights issue plan, he intends to acquire 110 million Class A common shares to facilitate his strategic financial objectives. Hey, let me first check what the specific rights issue price is before making any decisions. However, if these auto stocks are experiencing a rise one after another like this, it's likely because the recent auto stocks have been heavily hyped up and promoted prior to this moment. Under such a momentum, even NIO is saying that it will issue bonus shares. Isn't it time for everyone to take a look at whether your car stocks are really worth a try?
Absolutely, yes and no. If you believe that the future rights issue price will be 2,946, then keep in mind that 2,946 represents a significant discount. Specifically, it indicates that the price is 9.5% lower than the previous day's closing price. You must be quite brave and willing to take risks to consider buying rights issues at such a substantial discount, as it can be a challenging decision for many investors. Some investors who are brave enough to take advantage of the atmosphere at that time believe that the market conditions will not be so bad. So now is the special period. Now that the matching process is fully complete, does this particular stock still need to exist going forward? There is no necessity for concern. All stocks have now settled into a stable position. Therefore, you can consider this price point as a definitive high. Achieving the top level of at least $30 seems extremely challenging. Even if you examine the chart pattern and observe a neckline around the $32 mark, realistically, you are unlikely to progress much further, especially when judging solely based on the current stock price trajectory and market conditions. From a business perspective, to be completely honest, some of the automotive stocks, particularly those related to new energy vehicles, belong to them, and they do require significant funding. These companies are quite adept at securing financial resources and can successfully locate them in the investment markets. However, the pressing question is, why do they need so much funding? The answer lies in their continuous pattern of burning through cash at an alarming rate. I'll keep talking to you until you're almost there. As for the future, the problem is what I always talk about. Myself, my son, I always talk about it. Its positioning is rather awkward. You can say that some mid-priced cars are electric cars, but don't forget that you are currently a new brand, a domestic brand. Well, even if you are selling something extremely popular and in high demand, have you truly gained widespread market recognition, and do you believe you are worthy of a specific price point? Well, this may be a little complicated, so let's take a step back. As the world's largest automobile conglomerate, known as the T-type group, don't you believe they are the true pioneers navigating through the toughest challenges? All I need to do is change the oil annually and ensure I regularly fill up the gas tank, and that's really all there is to maintaining my vehicle. Simple, yet essential. Their cars are typically family-oriented vehicles that lack turbocharging or the latest advanced engine technology. Instead, they are equipped with a gearbox that prioritizes fuel efficiency while also being highly durable. This design choice has gained significant popularity, and consumers are more than willing to pay Japanese prices to acquire these reliable vehicles. Interestingly, you can find the same models available at similar price points. Additionally, I'm not sure if you were aware, but there are actually two showrooms featuring two prominent Japanese brands located in Shatin. A powerful T and a swift H, they hit the opponent. There is no H letter now, but the T letter is still there. For cars that share the same configuration or fall within the same price range, the equipment designated with a T prefix will consistently be of lower quality or capability. Is this the reason why it is so straightforward for us to make comparisons? Let's take a closer look at this issue. Essentially, this serves as a subtle form of brand name price comparison. However, this approach may be pushing the boundaries too far. If you go back to the future, is it worth having this brand value? The market does not seem to have reached the point where it is good to recognize your brand value. As you all know, the homogeneity of automobiles in mainland China is quite obvious. Some of the same well-known brands will sell better in the market. For example, if you look at BYD, they don't increase their vehicle prices, but instead they offer some incredibly advanced and powerful plug-in hybrid technology to attract and sell to customers, which makes them highly competitive in the industry. Xiaoping keeps selling all kinds of cars at affordable prices and at a good value. Its sales have exceeded 30,000 units for 5 consecutive months. However, some of your mid to high price brands are relatively bleak. This is the current situation of the mainland automobile market.
Well, you just mentioned BYD, which is quite interesting. In fact, in addition to the recent news regarding BYD's stock repurchase program, do you recall that we also discussed the aggressive price war strategy it initiated in the last episode? It seems to be a crucial aspect. On March 28th, he made the decision to lower the prices of 3 specific models from the popular Songhai Pao and Songhai Pao series, aiming to attract more customers. Following this price adjustment, just 1 day later, on March 29th, he went on to further reduce the prices of additional models, including the Pure LDMI and the Song LDMI. Both of these models were also part of a limited time fixed price promotion, which was designed to encourage sales and enhance consumer interest during this promotional period. It was April 30th, and it turned out that the 3 units were reduced, and it was not enough to reduce them. Then 2 more units were released, and then they reduced them again. Now, let's discuss its current selling price in more detail. Following the recent price reduction, the entry-level version is now available at a more affordable range of 110,000 to 120,000 yuan. A Song LDM priced at 120,000 yuan offers good value for those interested in this model and its features. Now, you are discussing BYD, which is planning to issue bonus shares, and it will implement a price reduction strategy when a new car model is launched. If that's the case, I must say that since I have only recently entered the automotive industry, I have observed that BYD has consistently been regarded as the stock market king, known for its impressive performance and innovative advancements in electric vehicles. Now, the title of stock king can actually give him an upward trend, but I don't see him being called the stock king now. Why is he called the stock king? Because his entry fee is more expensive.
Hey, because his price has risen too much, his price is already 130,000. When you enter the market, your capital is already over 100,000. What are you talking about now, the stock price? The current stock price, yes, the stock price is now tens or even hundreds of thousands, which is far from being worth it at this moment. It was only over $60 when I first invested. At that time, investing a few tens of thousands of dollars allowed for the purchase of top stocks, and now Tencent has risen to become the leading stock, valued over 30,000. It's valuable if it increases, but not if it decreases. No doubt if you were me, Sage Global would have been the stock king. At that time, the stock price was around 80 yuan. You can go and see what the stock price is now if you click 33 buttons. Isn't the stock suspended now?
It seems like he can't produce any results. Let's wait and see.
Prior to the suspension,
Oh, yes.
9,800 is worthless. 9,008. No, it's 99,008. It's not 98 cents. It's not 9/8. It was about 80 something dollars at that time. Yes, you have some other examples. It's really hard to figure it out. You are in China Life Insurance. You are like this. You didn't tell me how much China Life Insurance cost when you entered the industry and I entered the industry. About $50.
Yes, probably. Yes.
So there is none. You need to diligently follow several essential basic factors. I wonder if BYD can sell its cars. You will get a good deal if you buy it now, similar to the earlier price over $60. Its current valuation is high because it's not yet making money and still has gasoline cars to sell in the market, indicating it hasn't fully transitioned to profitability. The market is not willing to give you a very high valuation, so I will slowly reorganize my product line. We are expanding our product line, offering a wide range of electric cars. This includes entry-level models like the Dolphin, costing hundreds of thousands, to the Denza, which typically exceeds 1 million. However, there is a Denza model priced under 1 million, approximately between 500,000 and 600,000.
These are MPV-like cars?
Hey, he also has one called Yangwang. Yangwang is a relatively high-end car that costs over 1 million, and some of them are off-road vehicles. Such a broad product line ensures that there will be no problem with its cars, and its battery technology is also recognized by the market. These factors actually help it survive in the current market downturn, but the tight situation it faces is that automakers are facing a price war. I think everyone keeps reducing prices. In fact, this will definitely affect the gross profit margin. The situation behind it will naturally reflect the stock price. This is just an old-fashioned way of saying it, so please continue to pay attention. However, you're asking whether the current price of the electric vehicle is justified for purchase. While it is true that it could potentially become a leader in the market, even achieving that status may not be worth the cost, because you must consider that the homogeneity among electric vehicles is alarmingly pronounced.
If you want to stand out and win sales, you actually need some clear advantages, and his advantage is that he can sell big items at a discount. That's right, it's a bargain.
Yes, as a leading stock, the price you buy at is a bargain. So in this situation, I am worried that the stock price will continue to fall. In fact, it will take a long time for the stock price to rise.
Well, the entire story will indeed take a considerable amount of time to fully explain. First, we will focus on selling some advertisements. After that, we will return to discuss the market analysis with Ryan in detail. Please do not leave us just yet. Additionally, Dora inquired of Ryan whether he had any insights or opinions regarding pharmaceutical stocks. Let's revisit this topic later and explore any pharmaceutical stocks that we can analyze together with everyone involved. Therefore, please don't go anywhere. We'll catch up with you shortly.
Hey there. I met Xiaopeng recently. Yes, did you hear about it? 30,000 at zero price. Heard?
Did you hear that? Yes, you should have definitely heard it because there were some unexpected technical problems just a moment ago. So I said, hey, the Hang Seng Index is not that crucial at the moment. Now, let's shift our focus and discuss the stock market activities today. Aside from a few twists and turns in the trend of auto stocks, the situation in Bio Valley is actually noteworthy. Currently, it should be trending in a positive direction.
There is currently no sound for you, the audience. Is there sound now? Yes, is there sound now? Because I genuinely feel a connection to you. Yes, I truly am connected to you. I sincerely apologize as there are more people present today than usual. And unfortunately, we are experiencing some unexpected technical problems.
Please forgive me for being so rude. What I want to convey is that beyond just auto stocks, as Dora just mentioned, biopharmaceutical stocks are also experiencing significant and rapid growth, particularly CSPC pharmaceuticals. Regarding biopharmaceuticals and similar sectors, I first want to mention that I am uncertain whether Ryan has observed the recent trend in these pharmaceutical stocks. This uncertainty arises from my lack of knowledge about Ryan's awareness of the situation. The market movements appear somewhat abrupt and unexpected, which may explain why this trend has caught many off guard, including possibly Ryan. Because the main issue is that I am currently only about a minute away from you now. Are we actually in the same city? The same problem persists, confirming that we are indeed located in the same city right now. All right, so even though I don't have a physical office space. In terms of both market spirit and urban development, the pharmaceutical sector is showing some relatively positive trends. For instance, Kangfang experienced a significant rise of 15% today, indicating strong investor interest, while China Biologic Products with the stock code 11-7 saw an increase of 2%. Additionally, Shijiao, identified by the code 1093193, is also contributing to this upward momentum in the market. They all increased by 10% or 12% overall. Let's go back to the beginning. What is the reason why these weak biotechnology sector stocks have completely exploded? Why has it been accumulated for so long? Could it be because I don't want to? I'm embarrassed because I just went online to check some information. The State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission of the State Council encouraged some state-owned enterprises to carry out mergers and acquisitions and restructuring in the field of biomedicine. On March 26, the National Healthcare Security Administration conducted an important research and development meeting focused on optimizing the centralized procurement process of medicines. In the days that followed, numerous news articles and updates emerged regarding biopharmaceuticals, which is a topic that many people may recall and find significant. During the hype in the Hong Kong stock market, people sought lagging sectors, a sentiment also applicable to unhyped sectors.
Biopharmaceuticals is indeed one of those fascinating fields. It's not something that has received significant hype just yet, or perhaps it's simply something that he hasn't had the chance to learn about yet, haha. Hey, remember, it's not because of your weak release, for example. You are only 9926. Don't say anything else. Just say you are 9926. Today you get everything with one blow. Hey, some good release or strong release. These are probably what we talk about and get more blows. But now we are at a high position and get more blows. Why don't you sell your stocks? Why do you start to eat the stocks when the price reaches $8 or $8? You see, there is a chance to make a lot of money, but I believe it is very difficult to make such money because of you. But first of all, why do you speculate on this type of stocks, or which stocks have risen a lot? Usually the B shares have risen a lot. B stocks refer to biopharmaceutical technology stocks that have not yet recorded profits. They are specifically biotech stocks, not necessarily pharmaceutical ones. In fact, you will notice that these types of stocks are often those that have experienced particularly impressive increases in value, or they may be those whose profits demonstrate a lack of stability and consistency. On the contrary, some reputable pharmaceutical stocks tend to lag behind significantly once the upward trend in the market reverses, showcasing a tendency to fall behind compared to others in the sector. This dynamic highlights the risks associated with investing in highly volatile stocks versus more stable options. If you see what I mentioned this time, it's only 1093. Today's upward trend is pretty good. Well, the trend has changed a lot. Actually, I don't say it's really strong. It's increased by 10%. In fact, I think it's very sharp. Well, it's increased by 10%. Now, what is the valuation he's talking about? About 14 times PE. Well, 14 times PE. Look at what he said before from 2025. Now, basically, there is nothing wrong with it. There are 4 fours in a row and then 4 eights in the next row. One more box is $5 and $5, and the next box is 5 twos. Wow, big man, these are some big things that are going to happen, such as basketball and some domestic silver. Yes, the beautiful trend of domestic silver is definitely more beautiful than it. Well, these investment funds are strategically taking advantage of the current market momentum and are following suit to speculate on its potential growth.
But what about your follow-up?
I think the live broadcast rate is not high. I dare not believe it and hope it will not continue to rise. I just think its live broadcast rate is so-so.
Well, actually, it may have been a relatively short amount of time since I first entered this ancient and intriguing forum. I have never considered investing in biopharmaceutical stocks due to the difficulty of speculating in that sector.
What are your thoughts on which ones are easy to fry?
Hey, car stocks. The stocks 719.88 indeed exhibit noticeable fluctuations that you can clearly observe over time. If you are considering engaging in short-term speculation, I have attempted to invest in several other stocks within the market previously. However, those investments ultimately failed, leading them to perform similarly to other declining stocks. Because in terms of stock betting, before the epidemic, very few people were actively participating in betting, which caused the stock prices to consistently fluctuate up and down without clear direction. However, now it's as if a switch has been flipped, allowing traders to engage more freely and speculate on potential gains once again. I've witnessed a turnaround like this in the market before, where sentiment dramatically shifts, leading to increased activity and volatility in stock prices. However, I didn't watch it for quite some time because everyone is aware that China announced it would take strict action to crack down on these casinos. China wanted to attack before, wasn't it? Wasn't it just the terms before? What were they called? We should definitely crack down on those henchmen who are causing trouble, right? The intermediary business is about that. I don't remember the VIP room. The VIP room is that it will not be hit. It does not mean to hit the business of the VIP room. But you just said that the intermediary aspect has caused a significant reduction in the income of those VIP rooms. I haven't watched it for a while. Is it right or wrong? Yes. After that, okay, today we have some important updates regarding Macau's gaming revenue for the month of March. The revenue reached an impressive 19.66 billion Macau patakas. Interestingly, this figure has seen a slight increase of 0.8% year on year, which indicates that it has surpassed market expectations. What are your thoughts on this development? Do you believe that this specific amount of gambling income is considered high? 19.6 billion per month?
It seems that my salary is not high. Yes, that's it.
However, if we discuss it individually or perhaps examine it from the perspective of various industries, it appears that there is indeed less.
That's right. You can see it when you look at the chart. People are always telling you whether the performance is better than expected or worse than expected by reading the text. In our stock market, we don't look at the text. Yes, we look at the stock price. If you closely examine the stock price data, for instance, on the 27th, it clearly emerged as the market leader. Additionally, it demonstrated remarkable strength during the final days of March, showcasing impressive performance compared to its peers. Those positions are the highs. In fact, they have not set a new 52-week high. We can't even see the positions in October last year or at the end of last year. It's not easy to see, but it doesn't matter. They are also called highs. The high is 33.85 cents. The high position just below level 10 is around $3, but has actually dropped by 20%. Hey, it said that the market has fallen by 20% in the past 10 days since March 20th. Look at what we said before about Xiaomi, for example. It was actually the one that started the decline a little earlier. Well, in fact, many of these stocks have lost 10% or 20% unconsciously, so you have to be careful. Today, the data seems to be better than expected. There have been some rebounds, but as soon as you hit the 50-day line, it immediately shrank and distributed the money to the street. If you see these, if you are at a high position, you will be a lightning rod. But if you are at a low position, you may not feel it much. But in fact, it is just a miniature image on the wall, which means that many people live and die in high positions. In this situation, I don't say that this is strong at all, so you are right. It appears that the market does not believe these economic data are particularly strong.
Yeah, so I feel like this is quite significant. So I want to ask, is 19.6 billion considered really high? Because I observed that even if this news were to be released, it would be fine. On the 27th, everyone noted that it hadn't been disclosed yet. I felt that the timing wasn't too early for this information. It's 1920 now, so could it be 1928 soon? It's Sands, which was just opened in 1928. I came here to watch the event. It seems that the viewing experience is a bit better than that of the 27th, right?
My guess is that I actually think he is not that bad of a person as long as he doesn't engage in conversation with me. It seems much better for both of us if I simply choose not to talk to him at all. You can certainly express that opinion, but I'm just reflecting on how I feel about today specifically, as the movie airing on the show is not particularly lengthy. However, if we were to see him again, it would remind me of the last time we encountered him, which was back in October of last year. Don't look so far ahead. From October last year till now, wow, it has crossed through so many bottoms. It crossed through and then crossed through the bottom in mid-February. Why? Yes, indeed, this particular trend has been ongoing for quite some time, and it has now reached the lowest level observed since September of last year. Here and Route 27 has not reached these places. The difference between the two is greater than 27. The primary moving averages are all trending downward, and several shorter-term moving averages are crossing below the longer-term moving averages. This indicates a very negative technical trend. In fact, if you amplify concerns about this situation, it will only worsen. But the reality is that the situation is indeed quite dire.
Regardless of it being the 27th or 28th, the ancient Chinese literature on the 27th, if highly regarded, creates an insurmountable challenge, akin to being lost among many crabs.
No, I want to make it perfectly clear that the trend of 1928 is significantly more than 27. In 1928, the situation was more serious than in 1927. I might have mistakenly opened the wrong stock price chart, initially showing the Japanese market instead of Tencent.
The Japanese stock opened at 1928, but I find it strange that it isn't rising. Oh, if I use this picture to talk about this, it's really miserable. If you really have some stocks that you are holding, then forget it and bury them under the bed and wait for them to come back one day and then see if there is a chance to release them. That's it.
I can only say that this is not what I do. What I have always done is to stop loss when the stop loss point is reached. Yes, I am different from you who sit slowly, but many people will sit with you.
Many people enjoy sitting here and waiting for their return. Stock prices ultimately reflect fundamentals, so it's important to wait and see or assess whether these fundamentals will improve over time. Well, if you are still holding on to the previous generation's things at a high level like you are now, then you actually don't know what you are waiting for. You are waiting for them to wake up, just waiting for IT stocks. Your gambling stocks are currently facing a similar challenging situation. The Macau government has explicitly stated that the driving force of the local economy cannot rely solely on the gaming industry, emphasizing the need for broader economic diversification and growth. Well, you mentioned a key point when you spoke, which is that the central government is going to crack down on some intermediary businesses. This is very serious, and it obviously hurts the VIP room. What can you do if you don't have a VIP room? You rely on yourself for strength and support. What exactly are you reaching out for? What? Midfield, that's what we call the midfield. You have no reason to rely on the midfield. Yes, if you depend heavily on the midfield, the truth is, no matter what you claim, even if you are a gambler, ultimately you will not be able to maintain control. Well, in terms of structure, the winning rate of the VIP room is low, while the winning rate of the midfield is higher. However, the amount is traditionally higher in the VIP room and the midfield is smaller. So the midfield is actually the midfield as you and I all know. It is calculated based on the chance rate. There is no game that is less than 50% in the casino.
Yes, yes.
The number that is closest to 50% is actually about 51%. This game is called Baccarat. As for other games, the casino is actually trying to win against you. What they fear most is that you don't come. So in the past, it's okay for me to send you barbecued pork rice or anything else as long as you want it. But as long as people continue to come and gamble here, I will keep collecting money. However, the issue at hand is that firstly, there are individuals visiting Macau, whether tourists or locals, who are not necessarily interested in gambling activities. Additionally, the second point to consider is that the government does not actively promote gambling tourism. Despite this, the economy of Macau is heavily reliant on the revenue generated by the gambling industry. These factors will make you think that from a long-term perspective, these gambling stocks are not very attractive to funds. At best, they are better than 1928 and 27 because they are blue chips, and blue chips will always have some passive funds flowing into them. We must hold on to the current decline, but if you truly wish to restart the entire galaxy, I believe that task is far more challenging.
You just mentioned that if they are interested in enjoying free bubble milk tea or delicious free barbecued pork rice, they must come by, and it's simply a small gathering for sharing. This offer took place a few months ago when I visited both Sands and MGM, which was quite an experience.
You want to drink? Is it forbidden? It seems like now.
It's difficult for you to have bubble milk tea, and you're not allowed herbal tea, but you must have it. Meh?
Was bubble milk tea ever popular?
Yes, indeed, there is delicious pearl milk tea. I distinctly remember that Galaxy offered a delightful variety of pearl milk tea. After some time, I found myself really missing it. I had to go in, grab the cup, take a sip, stroll around, and enjoy moistening my mouth. However, at this point, even if you manage to gain entry, you still won't end up with what you truly desire. You are required to submit an application for a card. They will not issue gold cards or even the most basic ordinary cards. You need to continue playing until you've accumulated a specific amount of money and a certain quantity of silver coins, and only then will you be allowed to enjoy bubble milk tea.
It depends on whether it aligns with your heart.
I don't need to rate it, but I see that you really have the potential to win more than tens of thousands of dollars, so you can go and have a cup of bubble milk tea.
So wow, if you want to gamble, that's it.
Yes, so that's why it's like this. It's like this now. You are so stingy even with bubble milk tea. So I always feel like the above is a bit stingy. It's not because they are not doing well in business. It's because the Macau government restricts them to do so. It seems like I remember it was a few years ago. This thing is right.
Because I'm afraid that they just don't want the economy to be too dependent on the gaming industry, so it's easier to make money. Yes, indeed, this process takes some time to fully transform.
Hey, if you go out to sell milk tea, there will be no business in the small shops around here. If you go out to sell milk tea, there will be no business in the small shops. People are saying this. Now that we have talked about stocks, let's switch gears and talk about the US stock market. Let's take a moment to consider what Ryan thinks about the current market index and overall trend, as this week's primary focus revolves around the topics we just discussed. Specifically, after Liberation Day, which occurs on April 2, former President Trump is expected to announce some new tariff measures. This impending announcement has led many in the market to feel somewhat anxious and concerned about the potential implications for the economy and trade relationships. Furthermore, the United States is set to release the important unemployment rate data along with the non-farm employment figures for the month of March this coming Friday. Actually, the Dow Jones Industrial Average on that day, I looked at it first, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average futures itself fell on that day, The Dow Jones Industrial Average itself fell during the Asian session on that day, and at the beginning, it fell by 124 points. However, despite some market fluctuations, the Dow Jones Industrial Average experienced a significant increase, rising by 417 points to ultimately close at an impressive 42,001 points. The S&P 500 also made a positive comeback, reaching 5,611. In contrast, the Nasdaq saw a minor decline, dropping about 23 points to end at 17,099. It's convenient during this period, Wendy. What do you think of all of us? Actually, April 2nd is the day I want to say. Is there anything we should pay attention to?
As for the US stock market, I think the market is currently focusing on two things. It is really old-fashioned. One is focusing on the US tariff issues, and the other is the revelations from the news outlets. But it is obvious that no one got any revelations after the last Fed meeting, and no one seemed to think that the revelations were very important. Well, there is no big change. I don't expect a big change next time. There have been 2 interest rate cuts this year, which may be expected, but I just see the same thing. Inflation data exceeds market expectations, potentially leading to extended concerns for everyone. Yeah, but is your question very critical? As of now, I think some people would describe it as some adjustments made by the US stock market taking advantage of the trend.
Everyone, may I kindly ask, when do we specifically need to adjust it?
You've just fallen by 4% in the first quarter. I don't think this adjustment will be long, but it will last for the second quarter, at least for more than half a month in April. The US stock market may not have a very obvious upward trend or completed a consolidation. For the time being, I think there is some progress. It's still too early to make a definitive judgment, and it's not that straightforward to articulate, but the overall tone and fundamental factors influencing the United States economy are actually quite encouraging. This positive outlook is likely to attract various investments, which will be absorbed gradually and steadily over time. However, we are retail investors, and even if you own stocks, I believe you should consider being more aggressive and greedy in your approach. It's not yet this period of time. But in the US stock portfolio, I feel that some high quality companies, especially technology companies, are now considered to be worth buying.
Yes, but I suddenly want to ask a very foolish question. When should we start to be greedy? Haha.
When did your greed begin? Because, in my opinion, we should never allow ourselves to become too greedy.
Because, for example, I firmly believe that effective risk control is vital. We often look at the S&P 500 index lately. Now, for example, if I take a closer look at the S&P 500 index, I can see that it has actually fallen below the previous support level, which was around 5,600 or 5,611. The reason for this decline is that, in fact, when I analyzed my ETFs recently, they have probably dropped to the recent lows observed. So the question remains, can they continue this downward trend, or is there potential for recovery? Oh, it's hard to say. For now, let's not talk about ETF. We can definitely wait and see whether it will have another downward trend.
Oh, that's right. Bragging about achievements and making smart investments are two completely different concepts and activities.
The village committee will respond to any negative comments.
When you invest, you are calculating. You calculate whether it is worth investing in and examine its prospects. The focus is on the next 3 years, not just the upcoming 3 months. Yes, the reason why I am not feeling angry is that the technology that the United States possesses at this moment is actually similar to what they have had for some time now. When we engage with the media, we should be cautious and not limit ourselves to just a select few sources. Because when I view those reports and analyses, I often get the impression that the United States has already been surpassed in various technological advancements. The US will be replaced and won't require its chips or technology any longer. But this tangible real world doesn't seem to genuinely reflect a true reality, right? So when you see America now, I would describe it metaphorically as a rotten ship, weighed down with only 3 pounds of nails. But you ask me, should we be greedy? If we consistently adopt a mentality that encourages us to buy low and sell high, always aiming for the lowest possible price, then when everyone around me is caught by surprise, I will bravely choose to make a purchase. And when the price eventually rises to a high point, I walk alone and I know how to sell goods. This may be the best and most ideal, but the risk you take is also big. So we must always do a good job of risk management. Don't be too aggressive and don't be too conservative. Just maintain your own relatively independent perspective. If you ask me to examine it now, I would think that in the future, at least for a period of time, the United States, that is the US stock market, will be in a consolidation state.
Great news! If you're considering purchasing additional ETFs or perhaps investing in some index funds, you can gradually accumulate them over time. Well, let me take a moment to remind everyone that the United States will be releasing the Purchasing Managers Index PMI data for March today. Additionally, we will continue our informative program with all of you on Tuesday of next week. Therefore, if you have any questions or topics you would like to discuss or inquire about, please feel free to ask. Just a quick reminder that it will indeed be Tuesday when we meet again. Thank you, Ryan, for your help today. Okay, goodbye to all of you.